All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show and the third hour of the program. It is action-packed. It's our pleasure to welcome back onto the show to kick things off here, Alex Boissonneault from the Parti Quebecois. Monsieur Boissonneault, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Marcos, for having me. It's a pleasure.
So just so everyone knows here, of course, you're the M&A for Arthabaska. More importantly is that you are actually, in your party, in the PQ, you're the point man on relationships with English-speaking Quebecers, and you've been on the show now, I think, 3 times in 3 weeks. So you certainly are crushing it in that respect. So I appreciate.
We are making it a weekly rendezvous.
So I do appreciate it, and of course, we have a lot to talk about here. So what I want to discuss with you is the results of this internal referendum that the Parti Quebecois held with its members, okay? You asked the members of the PQ, I think just over 50% of members responded. You asked your members about secularism. And here are the results. 90% of your members that voted are in favor of banning the wearing of conspicuous religious symbols by elementary school students. 95% in favor of banning street prayer. And a similar number, I think it's 96%, in favor of banning prayers in schools which receive state funding from elementary to CEGEP.
Exactly.
So what do you think these results say about where your membership is?
I think it's a very positive process. That referendum with 54% participation, it's great because we did it through emails, like with the new process that we were just testing, and it's the only way that we could get in touch with the whole membership of the party was through email. So the response for us is very positive. Obviously, we're going to have to maybe add a little bit to that process, but in general, we're very happy. What it shows, I think, Mr. Marcos, is how the membership is aligned with our proposition in the caucus, and more precisely the proposition of our leader, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, who wanted already, before we started that process for the referendum, wanted to ban the prayers, spontaneous prayers on the streets. We talked about that before together. So this was his orientation. Then we added those 2 other questions about religious symbols and about prayers in schools. And we see that the membership of the Parti Québécois is very attached to the principles of secularism that we defend in this party.
So, you have this result from a decent percentage of your members, but how much do you believe that result is representative of the general public as a whole in Quebec?
We do believe that in Quebec, we have a population that is generally very attached to the principles of secularism. We've been talking about those matters for the last few years. It's a matter of principle. And people in Quebec are very moderate when they talk about this. Yes, they are attached to the fact that we should defend the freedom of conscience of students in schools, for example, that we should be as far away as possible of notions of communitarianism, of proselytism in the schools. I think people are aligned with us on those matters. Obviously, there's a reflection, there's this discussion to have about how we're going to apply those principles. But in general, I think the people of Quebec have shown before that they are very attached to these principles. And I think as well we can see that in the response they have to our proposition in general. I think people understand that what we propose is for the benefit of all students, of all the population, and it's something that we're doing, inspiring ourselves to what we see outside. Like in France, for example, we've been much more farther on those principles. That's not where we're going. We have a moderate position on these matters, but we have a Quebec way to defend that.
So in the last 24 hours, I would say maybe the most contentious discussion over your internal referendum has been on the matter of the banning of symbols for elementary school students, okay? Now, I heard Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, the leader of the PQ, he was interviewed, and he tried to make the case this is about reducing division. At the elementary school level, you don't want to be focused on the identity of what religion everyone is and that kind of thing. Now, after that, we heard from this morning, in fact, we heard from the leader of the Liberal Party of Quebec, Pablo Rodriguez, okay? So he tweeted this out. He says that as a human being, as a father and as a human being, I love how he started that, by the way, I cannot accept these remarks by Paul St. Pierre Plamondon. I refuse to have our children taught that difference is a problem. School must be a place of openness, not exclusion. So, in your opinion, banning religious symbols from the elementary school students, is that exclusionary or inclusionary?
I appreciated your reaction to that reaction of Pablo Rodriguez, because it's precisely the opposite that we're doing at the party right now. We do believe that quite the opposite to what Mr. Rodriguez says. This is precisely to prevent exclusion and to defend diversity that we are proposing this. We want to defend the freedom of conscience of students. We want to be able to make sure that kids are included in every discussion, that they are respected in what they are without drawing religious lines or community lines, is to make sure that kids are respected in what they are and they can be included in all aspects of life when they discuss together at school, when they form friend groups. Secularism is precisely to protect inclusion and diversity. This is our perspective, and this is what happened in a lot of places where these principles have been applied.
So I want to ask you, how much of a priority is this for your party? I also saw Paul St. Pierre Plamondon talking this week about, the core responsibilities of government versus secondary missions of the government. And there sort of seems to be an indication that there's going to be a focus on efficiency and core missions. Mm-hmm. Is this part of core missions? Where does this land on the list? This reinforcement of secularism for you?
We started our caucus this week with this core mission that we think we have and that we're going to discuss in the weeks coming in Parliament, about the fact that we need to make sure that the taxpayers have what they should have for the money that they give in taxes and what they give to the government. So this is a priority for us. It's hard to say or to order these matters sometimes, because there is a reaction of the public as well. There is a reaction of the media. These matters of secularism are important. This is something that we have to do. It's a matter of principle. This is not the focus that we decided to give on the exercise that we did this week, discussing about how the state, for example, can be more efficient. But it is something that is emotional. It is a debate that a lot of people hold with passion. We have to be careful in this. We have to talk responsibly, and we have to be delicate when we talk about these matters. But it's true, because it's true that sometimes people get very passionate about this. So we have to discuss about that responsibly. But for us, the priority is to make sure that we defend all Quebecers, including the kids. We see now that there is a preoccupation of a lot of people on those matters of secularism at school, primary school in that case. And I have to remind you that for the religious symbols in elementary school, we chose our words to make sure that there is some flexibility. For example, we talked about ostensible religious symbols, saying that it's when you have an intention to show your symbol. This is what is problematic. But if you have a small cross, a small Star of David, a small moon, for example, on a pendant that you can just wear as a regular necklace under your clothes, for example, there's no problem with that. People are going to have to use their judgment. So we try to be moderate, but our idea is to defend everybody in Quebec, including the kids and their religious of conscience and their freedom of conscience.
I appreciate you're really making an effort to talk with the Anglophone community and, of course, our CJAD 800 listeners. Let me throw one thing at you from a listener, which I think, listen, I on Bill 21, that kind of stuff, I think I'm winning a lot of people over, but it can be argued that the majority of listeners are not on board with me on that front, okay? So let me throw one thing at you from a listener. They're pointing out, it's their hypocrisy that the calendar, we celebrate Christmas, we celebrate Easter, and you're going after religious symbols. What do you say to someone who brings that up? I'm sure you've heard that refrain before.
Yeah, well, we have to separate two things there. There is, of course, a history in Quebec that has been influenced by religious matters. You know that in Quebec, at one point, we were very religious. It was almost a theocracy a couple of years ago, which makes Quebecers maybe more sensitive to those issues. What we're trying to do right now is not to erase all history, because history is important as well in what we are and how we understand the world as we see and how we're going to look forward to what's coming. We're trying to make sure that in public areas, that in schools, that the freedom of conscience of everybody is defended. But it is a line that we have to walk on, saying that there is a history in Quebec that has been influenced by religions, and we ain't going to erase all the history. There is the patrimoine. I don't know how you would say that in English. I'm sorry,
heritage, yeah.
Exactly, and we have to respect that. But for example, if you look at Parliament, there was a cross in Parliament that we took out. There was a big debate about that because people are attached to that history. We have to walk that line, but it's important to make the difference between erasing the history, erasing the past. That is important for us to understand where we're going, where we're coming from, and where we're going, and making sure that everybody's respected in the society that we have right now.
Monsieur Boissonneault, a real pleasure talking to you again today. We'll keep the conversation going. Thanks so much.
Same here. Thank you. Bye.
Alex Boissonneault is PQ M&A for Arthabaska, and he is also the party's point man on relations with English-speaking Quebecers.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.